But without going into the long story, there's several miracles, 10 miracles I want to just cover in this short catechism, okay? First, this image, they've already put it through laser with NASA. They put it through CAT scan and all these scans and all these radars and ultra lights and red lights. And there's no sketching underneath. Normally when you do a paint job, you sketch what you're going to paint first, right? Any artist first sketches and then he paints over it. But there's no sketching on this. In fact, they find that the pigment, the colors, are not embedded in the material. It's the cactus material. It's kind of floating on top somehow. The color, and this is rose color, and these are shiny parts, and these are a blue pigment that cannot be found on the earth. None of the colors come from minerals, plants, or animals. They don't know where it comes from. All that color, the pigment. And when you see the real one, the Virgin Mary, she looks sometimes Mexican, sometimes Aztec. And the farther, when you move about 10 feet from the real one, she looks white. So she takes on a different reflection of different races to show that all races are meant to be Catholic, adoring her divine Son. Now, if you look at all the flowers on her garb, this one is all different. It has 4 petals, right? And where is that? Where is that strategically placed? Is it at her feet? Is it at her neck? In her bosom. Who's in her bosom? The Lion of the tribe of Judah, our Lord Jesus Christ. And this cloth here means that she's with child. And doctors have studied this, and they found that it's actually protruding like a real pregnant mother. And December 12th, Our Lady would have been in her 9th month. So she would have been quite showing, right? And December 12th, 1531, this is the time of Advent. This is when she appeared. Also, as mentioned before, the stars here are not there just for decoration. They have actually taken the structure of the constellations of the stars, and they put it on here, and it matches perfectly the constellations. But it's looking not from Earth to the stars, but above the stars down to Earth. From heaven of heavens down to earth. And they even find that these are so strategically placed that they actually form a piece of music. And I have the piece of music. It's on YouTube. You can find it. It's in Spanish. But they actually play the music that is on the tilma. And it sounds, I would say it sounds very much like a work of Palestrina or Victoria. When you got 4 full voices singing the glory of God. It's really tremendous. The other miracle, in 1778, you see that? Can Mexican workers be clumsy ever? Is that possible? Can Mexicans be clumsy?
Maybe.
Well, this one was. He spilled nitric acid. Look at that. And it stained the whole thing. It stained the whole thing, but only this shows the stain. Everything else was not harmed by the nitric acid. And remember, this is made of what material, the tilma, the real one? A cactus called maguey, which is similar to the aloe vera family, and it has a sharp point at the end. And they grow huge. Big. The leaves are really thick. In Mexico and even Texas and New Mexico, they grow big. And in Arizona, the maguey plant, you see them down in Arizona, right? The big plants, and they make material out of it. They have sewing needles they make out of the points. And that material, imagine a material made out of spinach. It would last if you're lucky, 10, 15 years, if that. But this should only last 20 years. But today, it's as supple as if it was fresh. And it's how many years old is it? It was 1531 to now, it's old. It's old. So 485 years, exactly. 485 years today, it's as fresh and supple as if it was sewed yesterday. The other miracles. In 1921, the Freemasons tried to bomb it, get rid of this icon of the Virgin Mary, painted by the hands of the Blessed Trinity. They put a bomb right here on the altar in the old basilica. The bomb blew, detonated. It destroyed the altar. It destroyed the crucifix. It's all bent. You can still see that in the basilica there. It destroyed, it blasted out the stained glass windows over 100 feet away from it. And this was right next to it. And then someone put it in a flower pot and took off, and it blew, detonated. And the image, miraculously unharmed. It was 1921, right at the beginning of the persecutions on the Cristeros. Also, the eyes, they not only pick up, which could never be painted, because you can only pick it up by microscope, 13 people reflected in the eyes. And one of them is Bishop Zumarraga, who was a very holy bishop. And he's the one that Our Lady asked him to build the church to hold her image. And they also pick up by microscope the tiny little capillaries, the little veins that are in the eyes. And how can someone in 1531 possibly paint that? They have no conception of microscopes. But it all shows up. And one Japanese doctor, an optician, he said he was looking into the eyes, and the eyes looked back at him as if they were real. He got spooked out. He wept. He wept. They also take a stethoscope and they listen to the heart of the Virgin Mary pumping. And when they put it here, guess what? They hear a tiny little heart pumping fast. And the temperature of her body, they actually medically take a temperature of her body. It's always at 98.6, the temperature of a healthy human being. That's 98.6, 36.5 Celsius, 98.6 Fahrenheit. And when the Indians saw this, they worshiped the moon. So what does that tell them about the moon? Yeah, that the moon is not God. She's crushing it, right? That there are real angels, because that's in the actual image. That's Angel of Mexico, Guardian Angel of Mexico. And then the Aztecs worship the sun. But what's happening to the sun here? What? Yeah, she's blocking the sunlight. It's behind her, glorifying her. So did the Aztecs see the sun as God here? The S-U-N? No, this told them the sun was not God. But she's greater than the sun and the moon, right? But is she God? No, why? Because her hands are folded in prayer, supplication, and her head is bowed. So someone's higher than her. And this flower says that's the center of the universe. This is given to the high emperor. So the emperor of heaven is in her womb. And the constellation of the star of Corona Borealis, which means crown, is on her head. If they match the map of the stars on here, that's there. The constellation Virgo is on her heart, the Immaculate Heart of Mary, virgin and pure and spotless, without sin. And Leo is here on her womb, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the constellation Leo. Leo, the lion. Now the Aztecs saw all this gold trim, and the blue was the color of royalty. They saw this fancy cuffs on her sleeves, and that all meant royalty. So they saw she's a queen, but she's not God. But she's the mother of God, and on her brooch is a cross. And of course, the Franciscan missionaries, the Dominican missionaries, they came with the cross. And so when they saw this, they saw this is the mother of God. God became man for us. He died on the cross for us. And he sent us his priests, his missionaries, to teach us the faith. So over 10 to 80 million Aztecs converted to the Catholic faith. And for the next 5 to 10 years, the priests were baptizing up to 5,000 people a day. Their arms were falling apart. And so that's incredible. Also, in 2007, Mexico passed the abortion law. What a shame. But on August 25th, 2007, I remember this when it came out. It was headline news. The baby Jesus had a bright halo around him. And you see the little baby Jesus in her womb, like a little infant. And it was shining for 24 hours, shining really bright, a halo around it. And it wasn't a flash of the camera because it was coming right out of the image. And they photographed it, they filmed it, and skeptics and idiots tried to say, well, it was just a flash of a camera or some reflection from another light. But it wasn't. It was right coming out of the image itself, the baby Jesus, protesting this horrible law of abortion. And notice here, the right foot of the Virgin Mary, it's her right foot, but it also looks like a baby wrapped in a blanket, doesn't it? And the baby, if you look at close, his eyes are shut, his face is looking down. Because the Aztecs were killing not only their virgin girls and their strongest warrior athletes, they were killing the babies to Satan. And now they're killing, both North and South America are killing millions of babies to convenience, pleasure, and Satan. So these babies, why would you guess the face of the baby is facing down? Do babies go to hell?
No.
They don't have mortal sin. But they do have what sin? Original sin. So if they die or are killed in sacrifice or in abortion before being baptized, where do they go? Limbo. So he's face down because they never see the face of God for all eternity. But they'll have a natural happiness, you know. Big Macs, Coke, sunny beaches and hammocks forever. But they won't have the beatific vision. And on the new Jerusalem, the new earth, the saints will be on the new earth, all those who see the Blessed Trinity. And it's very possible the souls of limbo will be also on the earth with the saints. But the saints will see Trinity, the Blessed Trinity, but these they won't. But they'll have a natural happiness. Another detail is Bishop Zumarraga. He had made a novena praying for peace to come by Christ the King to Mexico, because there was wars, they were butchering all these people, and he begged the Virgin Mary for an answer to his prayers by somehow he could see Castilian roses, which only grow in Spain. And they're a rich, red, colorful rose with a strong fragrance. They don't grow in Mexico, especially in December. Nothing grows in December. But Juan Diego, he was instructed by the Virgin Mary, go gather those flowers on the top of Tepeyac, bring them to me. She arranged them with her own hands, and then he brought them to the bishop as a miracle and proof that it was the Virgin Mary. Finally, when he got into the bishop, because his servants were trying to give him a hard time, see what he was hiding, he dropped on his knees and he dropped the roses. And when the bishop saw the roses, he was stunned because they only grow in Spain, not in Mexico. But more than that, this unraveled before their eyes as he opened his tilma. And this tilma looks pretty big, but that was what they wore to keep themselves warm, to carry their groceries. So it should have been completely decayed in 20 years. And here we are, 2016, it's still fresh and supple. And the flowers, the roses, when they dropped, the image appeared in front of their eyes. So that's why the eyes of the Virgin Mary pick up 13 people, because they're all standing there in awe at what they see, the miracle. And then in 1945, the Pope Pius XII declared her Empress of North and South America. Another final detail before we close, there was a Carmelite nun. Pablo, what was her name? Sister Maria.
Yeah, I forgot. Sister
we
Maria.
visited her with Father Pfeiffer, and Pablo has been friends with this Carmelite nun for many years.
Oh, Sister Maria de San Jose Corral.
Yeah, this San Jose Corral. She was a Carmelite nun. She has died since, 1 or 2 years ago, a holy Carmelite nun, unfortunately with the new Mass. But those nuns still take care of those roses. The rose bushes, they're still growing. They still take care of them, those Carmelite nuns. They're still growing. So, and that's why sometimes when you go down, they'll give you rose petals from the very miraculous rose bushes that Our Lady put there to bring about this miracle. So that wraps it up. And just remember the words of Our Lady to Juan Diego. Do you have any worries? I am your mother. Don't you know you're in the fold of my mantle? You're in the fold of my arms. And that's that motherly tenderness that our Heavenly Mother has to each soul. And she cured his uncle. So that's the great Virgin of Guadalupe. So she's not just in the land of tortillas, enchiladas, and horchata. She is mother of all North and South America. She's our queen. And in the New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty, the Goddess of Liberty, which was given by the Freemasons, her back is towards Our Lady Guadalupe. So this is the real Mother of Liberty, not that Freemasonic idol. And you know, that idol in New York City wouldn't take much to turn it to the Virgin Mary, you know. Put the baby Jesus in her arms, and a little touch up on the face, and a cross, and she could be turned into the true Mother of Liberty. So let's salute Our Lady. And this is she appeared last week in Advent to Juan Diego. And Juan Diego was a devout Catholic. So all the Indians converted. They were just stunned. And they were so happy when this image came to a village of the Indians. They were dancing with joy. And one of the Indians shot his arrow in the air, just so happy, not realizing that the arrow that went up is going to come down. And it stabbed an Indian boy about Francis's age right through the neck. He dropped dead. He stopped breathing. He started turning cold. They came and took out the arrow. They asked the priest, bring the image and touch him to it. Touch him with it. And right before their eyes, his wound, the blood, the whole wound was cured miraculously immediately. And he came to life. And they danced and jumped and with great joy after that again. So there's been thousands and thousands of miracles through her. So what a treasure for our modern day, for our modern world. This and the shroud are great treasures to reach modern man who worships science and science investigation. Well, NASA studied it and they said this image is it's inexplicable, cannot be explained. Any questions? I gotta go to Mass, so let's pray. In the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Sancte Joseph, ora pro nobis. Sancte Piedecime, ora pro nobis. Sancte Antoni, ora pro nobis. Benedictus Dei omnipotentis, Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti, et semper. Amen.